The White House I was talking about was located right in there. There was a car wash that was right across the street from it. But we were sitting in the back of the police car, Westbrook Johnson and I. We were back in the seat, you know, in the back seat on the other side of the cage. And we were sitting back there. And I leaned forward as the handcuffs were, you know, gripping on me, about right here. And I asked the police officer, you know, it must be fun to be a cop. And he just kind of grinned, looked around. He has two teenage kids in handcuffs in the back seat of his car. Two cops. There were two cops. I'm thinking to myself, well, what are we going to do now? I guess we're dead. You know, I mean, you know, what do? We can't get out. We're in bondage. They got us. We're handcuffed. What are we going to do? Eventually just got out. Moved on. Went very far. All the way to New York to grad school. That cop is a fat ass. Forgive my language. But the cop he's overweight. He's by himself. And he's watching this right now on YouTube. Thinking to himself, how did I become this fat? Why am I this obese? Right? Why am I an overweight, miserable, depressed person? It must be fun to be a cop. But he's retired now. Not too far from here, a friend of mine, Teddy Zonker's, she actually drowned in a whirlpool. My sister was there, I was there, we were all in the whirlpool, and we were playing around. She'd kicked me in the groin, and she was just joking around, and I was sitting there. Well, anyway, she went under the water to wash her hair, and the drain back then, they didn't have very safe drains. It pulled her hair into the drain. And all of a sudden she started kicking, and I thought she was playing around because she had just kicked me in the groin. Just, you know, like, you know, when you're kids, you kick someone in the groin. We were little kids, you know, we were like middle school, maybe even younger than that. She was just kicking her legs in the air, like really high in the air. It was amazing because it was like she was a dancer or something. And I was like, well, why isn't, you know, she coming up? Her hair was caught in the drain, and my sister jumped up, and she got my mom. My mom was babysitting. My mom panicked, started crying, and grabbed the scissors, and they tried to cut her free. But because of how the drain was, she couldn't get all the hair out to pull her out. Well, luckily her sister Stacy was there. She's a basketball player. I guess she was coming in from, I don't know where she was. She was coming in, and the ambulance was already called. I was hiding under the kitchen table in fear. And I was just a little kid. I was like maybe 10 or 11. I don't even remember how old I was. And all of a sudden, she heard my mother crying in desperation. And Stacy ran in there and grabbed Teddy and yanked her. I mean, with all the adrenaline and force and just fright, yanked her right out of the whirlpool, right out of that sauna whirlpool thing, whatever it was. It was like a whirlpool sauna. And she was dead. She was white and blue. She had no pulse. So she started CPR on her and got her pulse back. She wasn't quite breathing, but she got her pulse going. Well, finally the ambulance came in. They kicked in the back door. They ran in to rescue her. And they immediately got the defibrillators things, and they started kind of, you know, trying to get her heart going even more. And finally, she took a breath. She flatlined. and she took her first breath after the flatline. And they put her in the back of the ambulance. Now, they were so sure that she was dead that they didn't even turn the ambulance lights on, you know, the siren lights and everything. And Stacy told the ambulance drivers to turn the siren on anyway, and the lights. They got her back to the ER. They were able to drain her lungs, and she was able to breathe again. She lived. Even though she died, she came back to life. And years later, I don't know, maybe more than 12 years later, I was doing Streetcar Named Desire. I actually played Stanley Kowalski, and she was there. She came to the performance. I saw her. Her eyes still looked a little far away. You know, she had those far away eyes, kind of staring sometimes into space, like she had seen something that another person hadn't seen. Kind of like a 1,000-yard stare kind of thing that a soldier would get. And she was just staring. And I asked her, I said, what'd you think about the play? And she just said it was good. It's a real quiet voice, which is strange, because the play is a very dramatic, kind of big deal play. And that was the last I ever saw of her. I remember when she was in the ambulance and also in the hospital, we all prayed. We prayed and prayed and prayed. We had a whole community of people praying for her. She actually pulled through it. It was a crazy thing, though. One moment you're alive, and the next minute you're dead. Just like that. Over a freak accident. One thing I heard, and the reason I'm telling this story was Stacy was one time talking to one of her friends, and they were playing basketball. There was a team that they were trying to beat. They could not beat this team. This team was great. It was like, you know, high school basketball. I think Stacy at the time was probably on, you know, like maybe like close to a senior in high school. And I think Teddy was probably like junior high, like close to junior high, and I was still middle school or even younger, maybe 5th or 6th grade. I can't even really remember. But regardless, Stacy was talking about this basketball team. This was like either weeks before this all happened or something. And I remember her talking in a kind of a weird, kind of almost a whisper, like lowering her voice. And they were basically planning a strategy on how to beat this unbeatable team that they're going to play in basketball. And I heard her lean forward and she said, you know, their defense, they have no strategy. And she said, well, what do you mean? She said, they have no strategy. They can't be beat. She said, what are you talking about? The other team that they were playing had no strategy. They played with no strategy. They only reacted to the other team. And they were undefeated, and no one could beat them because they had no strategy.